Hi everyone and welcome back to the channel. I am Kirsty and this is Stuck in the Mud. Please remember to like the videos if you feel this content is helpful for you and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. So in today's video, one thing you need to stop doing to end OCD and intrusive thoughts. So I'll get right into it. The one thing we need to do as OCD sufferers is to stop the compulsions. This is what feeds the whole OCD cycle and keeps us trapped and stuck where we feel so much discomfort being there because it just rules our lives, and we feel trapped. It feels like there's nowhere to go, and it just feels like the whole situation is getting worse and worse. So by ending the compulsions, this is where we can recover and we can actually get better. But this is a big thing for OCD sufferers. I'm not making light of it. I know it's hard. I've been there. I've been there where you feel like you have to engage in these compulsions. So that might be a physical ritual that you feel compelled to do. It might be compulsive thoughts. We're just ruminating over everything. We're just analyzing, we're really engaging with it that way. So it can be very physical behavior and it can be very mental behavior where we're ruminating, or it can be both. We often do all of those things. As I grew older, mine became very mental based. However, I still get those thick thoughts from time to time where I'll get the urge to carry out a physical compulsion. And I had one today of all days. I had one earlier, and guess what? I let it be there. So I resisted that compulsion. I resisted it. And yeah, I felt a little bit of discomfort because I was going against what OCD was telling me to do. But I recognized it. I recognized this was OCD and it was just trying to keep me trapped, get my attention and get me back where it wants me to be. OCD just craves attention from you and it wants you to just give into it all the time. And, when we're very accustomed to that and we're so used to just giving in, and it just takes away some of that discomfort. It's the easiest route to take. We just want that peace within ourselves and to for it all to go away, for all the intrusive thoughts to go away and all that horrible feeling that we feel, all the discomfort we feel in our body because we have all of these whirling thoughts just spinning around in our head, and it's not a good place to be. I've been there many times in my life, but the one thing that had to change was I had to stand up to OCD. I had to make the change. I had to do it, and it was hard. It was so hard, and there's times when I just thought I couldn't do it again because I'd been through this cycle so many times of just doing what OCD wanted me to do, and then eventually getting out of it and coming to a place where I'm feeling better and I'm kind of functioning more normally again. But then inevitably I'd end up back there again because we often, as OCD sufferers, we have we have lots of, kind of functioning times, lots of normal times when we can behave in a kind of way that people probably wouldn't even notice that we suffer from this. And then we can have many times where we feel we're at rock bottom, we're not functioning. It's just got to a place where we're so terrified of our thoughts, we're so terrified of OCD and what it says about us. What does this mean? What does all this mean? What do the intrusive thoughts mean? What does this actually say about me as a person? Am I a bad person? And it makes you feel really bad about yourself. That is what OCD's ultimate goal is just for you to feel so bad, so empty and so disconnected from the world because we're so used to just being in this place. In this place we're stuck. We're just there all the time, just answering to these never-ending intrusive thoughts, doing all the rituals, and it just takes up so much time, and we don't deserve to have our lives limited in that way. So yeah, I had to make a stand and I had to say no more. And there's going to be lots of setbacks along the way. This isn't a straight path. It's not linear. We're going to have those times when we just fall back, and we really need to kind of just get back on track with everything and doing the work that we need to do in order to heal from this. And when we resist those compulsions, we're sending a message to OCD. Our brain recognizes it when we don't engage in that ritual or mental compulsion. Our brain recognizes that, hey, this isn't so important, and I can disregard it. I can let that go. But when we engage with it, we're sending a different message. We're sending the message that this is important. This needs to be figured out. It needs to be worked out. We need to come to some conclusion over this, and our brain just won't let it go, and that's why it gets stuck there, and you feel terrible. You feel just so defeated with it all, because that's how it makes you feel. It makes you feel like there's no solution. How am I going to get better from this? And you feel like by doing all these compulsions that we will get better. And that is the OCD trap. The OCD trap is it's keeping you there. You're never going to be free of it. So what can we do about this? We can stop doing those compulsions, but that's hard. It's a big step to take, especially if you're at the beginning of wanting to do something about this, and you realize that this is no way to live. It's not a way of living your life fully, the way you deserve, and none of us deserve to be there. So what you do is you can, I will talk about letting the thoughts be there, and that's a big step to take. I know it is. It doesn't feel good. You have to resist all those physical compulsions, the ruminating, and it's very repetitive at first. It feels like you're recognizing the intrusive thoughts coming up, or the urge to carry out a ritual, and you just let it be there. That's quite a big step to take at first, and I know it is, and I know it's not easy. It takes a lot of practice. So there are some simple tricks we can use to actually get to that point where we need to be just letting the thoughts be there, letting the urges to carry out a ritual be there. We can do this, and this is a really simple practice I used when I was getting better from OCD, and that is we actually postpone our rituals, whether that be a mental rumination, or it could be a physical ritual that we feel compelled to do to feel better. Now we can delay it. We can just say, I'm not going to do that now, but that if you feel the need to do it later, that you can do it, or you can have an amount of time set aside, say like 10 minutes, where you're allowed to ruminate and carry out a ritual. So you'll say, I'm going to postpone that till such and such a time later. And now I'm just going to let that be there. And later on, when it gets to that time, if you feel you can postpone it again, that is brilliant, because you will realize eventually that those thoughts will just fade away on their own, because we're not giving it the same importance. It's all about the importance we're giving these thoughts and urges. This is why they become so big and out of hand, and so strong, and they have so much hold over us. So if we can just park that up there and say, yeah, I'm going to do that later at whatever time. And then, like I said, when it gets to that time, if you feel you can postpone it again, brilliant, do that. And we keep postponing it, and our brain it's just easing our way into just letting the thoughts be there. It's a brilliant way. And this is definitely one of the things that helped me with my therapist to get where I need to be and where I am today. So delaying is brilliant. That's really good. It's a really good thing to use, and it will take time. Like I said, sometimes you'll feel yourself getting caught up in the thoughts, and maybe you feel you carry out a ritual and you're like, oh, I just did it, because we're so used to doing it, and that's fine. Just give yourself a lot of, be kind to yourself, give yourself a lot of compassion. It's going to be a hard step to take this. But once we do this and we get used to doing it even more, our brain will recognize that this just isn't important, and you will notice that you won't be engaging in these kind of intrusive thoughts anymore. You won't be doing the urges. It'll just become so unimportant to you that, because our brain is understanding this now. It's understanding that this really isn't worth our time and attention. So you will find that they reduce in frequency, and you will find you probably don't get them as often as well. But, it can take a while to get to that point. It's not a quick fix. We're unlearning a lot of behaviour that we have been accustomed to doing over usually a long space of time. So it took a while for me. This has been going on for my whole life, 40 years. Started at age 5. So it took a while for me to kind of, relearn how to handle these kind of thoughts and, behave in a way that you could consider normal, like, someone that doesn't suffer from OCD, because whatever normal is, because, these people, everyone, we all get them as humans. We all get intrusive thoughts, but they just don't respond to them the same. And guess we are wired a bit differently. This is what I feel about it, but we can do something about it. We can't control the thoughts that come in our head. We can't. They just arise in our, in our mind. But we can control the thinking. This is all about engaging with those thoughts, engaging with rituals and, whether it be rumination or any other kind of physical compulsion. So we can do something about that. It's going to take practice, it's going to take time, but that is one of the ideal things you can use, is postponing those rituals and compulsions. You may also feel like when I talk about letting the thoughts be there, letting the urge, the feelings within the body, that goes for everything, the sensations you feel within the body, the anxiety, it's going to compel you to do something about when you recognize that you're feeling anxious. You can feel it in your body. You'll feel the pull to kind of carry out that compulsion to make it go away. So it's all about leaving those things there. And there's things we can do when we recognize that we're feeling that way. When we start thinking about something and we can feel we're being pulled and hooked into it, to work it out and come to some kind of conclusion and certainty around it. But as we know, when we do that, it just gets bigger, gets stronger, and it has more of a hold on us and we get stuck. So when we recognize we're going down that path, we can let it be there. We coexist with it. We don't get involved with it, as least involvement as possible. But we can also do things to get us to that point, because I recognize it is quite hard at first. I know myself, to just let the thought be there. It's a really hard thing to do as an OCD sufferer. So you can do these little things that actually make it a little bit easier. I've talked about this in some of my older videos where we recognize and we have awareness over the thought that's entered our mind. We can do various different things to kind of bridge that gap between thinking the thought and feeling the urge to do a ritual and compulsion, and actually letting it be there, because that can be a hard step to take. So what we can actually do is we can imagine it in different scenarios. One thing I used to do a lot was the telephone call. We imagine it as a telephone ringing and we don't answer it. We don't need to answer that phone. We can let it ring out, and that's just a way of thinking about the thoughts and the urges. We can just, every time that it pops up again, just trying to hook us in, we can do the same thing again. I'm not going to answer you. Be as passive as possible. We have that kind of relaxed awareness of it being there, but we don't actually engage with it. And we have as least involvement. So we can be like, yep, I know you're ringing, but I'm not going to answer. I also used to imagine these intrusive thoughts were on a piece of glass and I could see through them. I'm aware of it there, but I'm looking through it and I'm just moving forward with my day. Another one is imagining you're at a train station, and you can imagine all of these intrusive thoughts, are on the train. Those urges to carry out a compulsion and a ritual, they're on the train and it pulls up at the station, and guess what? We don't get on that train. The doors close and it moves away. And it's going to keep coming back, this train. It's going to keep coming back. Doors opening, there's the intrusive thoughts and the urge to carry out a compulsion. And doors close and we let it go again. And we do the same things. Like I said, it's going to feel repetitive at first doing these things, these exercises, but it does get easy. And eventually you won't need to do any of these things. And that's where I am now. Like I said, I had You know, I had an urge to carry out a compulsion this morning, but I just let it be there in my mind, and I don't necessarily feel all the anxiety with it anymore. I just get this small kind of, urge. It is there, it's still there. I get the intrusive thought, you need to do this, you need to repeat that again, till it feels right. And I just ignore it. I just let it be there. I'm aware of it being there. I'm not trying to push it away, and just letting it hang out. And it went, it doesn't bother me anymore. I recognize it was there, but it's gone. And it's just gone away on its own. And that's where we ultimately want to be. So, like I said, the train arriving is a great one. Also, the toddler throwing a tantrum. Think of OCD as a toddler throwing a tantrum. That's a great one to use. And it's brilliant for me because I've got young children that often throw tantrums, and yeah, we don't need to do what the toddler, the OCD, is telling us to do, because that is a better way to respond to it. We let them have their tantrum, and guess what? It will just fade away on its own. They will stop crying. They will realise it's ineffective and it's not getting your attention, which is what they ultimately want, what OCD wants. So that's another brilliant one. I talked a lot about this in very early videos. You may not have seen them. But these are great ways, like I said, to bridge that gap between getting the intrusive thought, the urge to carry out a ritual and compulsion, and letting it be there. It just bridges that gap. It may feel like a big leap to get to that place of just letting the thoughts be there. I recognize that. It's very seductive, OCD. It wants to pull you in. It's just, if you're not an OCD sufferer, you don't realise how much, how strong that pull is to actually just do it, do the compulsion, do the rumination. The pull is so strong because you just want some peace. You just want it to go away, and you don't want to feel so much anxiety, so much guilt, so much shame. You want that to just go. But we often do all the wrong things about it. We try and push them away. We try and distract ourselves, and all these things are just making it stronger because we're telling our brain that it's important, this, we shouldn't be thinking about this, sending all the wrong messages to our brain, which is actually making the OCD worse. It's making it so that our brain is thinking, well, I need to remember this, and it'll just come back again later. But once we send those different messages that this doesn't need our attention, it will get so much easier, and your life will become so much freer. We're not under OCD's control anymore. This is the big step to getting free of OCD. So recognize this is what we need to do. We need to stop the compulsions. But in reality, we're not actually stopping them, we're letting them be there, because we need to really emphasize the importance on that. When we try and stop anything, it just backfires. It just backfires completely because we're sending the wrong message. So we let them be there. We coexist with them. And like I said, using all these different exercises to actually do that, and, postponing, doing these, exercises within our minds to actually let them be there and realize we don't have to engage in them. And it's going to be, like I said, it's going to be repetitive. It's going to take time. It's going to take a lot of patience and commitment. We're so used to doing all of this. Be kind to yourself. This isn't an easy process, but it's well worth it. It's well worth it to have, OCD it's not in the driving seat anymore. It's not steering your life. It's not, it doesn't have control over you in the same way. Like I said, I still recognize that I have the tendencies to, to get those intrusive thoughts, and I get the urge to follow up on them, but I don't. And this is a place you can be too. It doesn't have to be a life sentence at all, because it does feel like it when you're in a really bad place with it. It feels like you're never going to get free of it, and it's just not true. I want people to realize from my videos that you can get better from this. You can get your life back. So please let me know in the comments if these videos are helping you. I just really want to hear, you know, your stories and what you're going through. And I want you to realise that this will get better. You'll get there. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.